Ava believed her father had abandoned her, but a hidden bunker and a dark secret would reveal the truth. He didn't leave her. He was protecting her from a dangerous enemy. What she uncovers isn't rejection, but a shocking family secret and a hidden ledger exposing a criminal empire. Now she must choose disappear or risk everything to uncover the truth. Watch until the end, because this hidden truth will change everything. At 22 years old, Ava Mitchell walked into a quiet law office that smelled faintly of dust, leather, and forgotten promises. Just days earlier, she had officially aged out of the foster system, carrying everything she owned in a single worn duffel bag. Life had taught her not to expect much, especially not from family. So, when she was told her estranged father had passed away and left her something, she assumed it would be nothing more than paperwork and disappointment. She barely remembered the man. To her, he was just a shadow from childhood, the one who had let her go, the one who never came back. The lawyer, a reserved man named Thomas Whitaker, didn't waste time on sympathy. He slid a thin envelope across the polished desk. Inside was a small inheritance barely enough to matter, and something far stranger, an old iron key and a hand-drawn map leading to a remote piece of land deep in the mountains of Montana. The land, she was told, was worthless, isolated, forgotten. But as Ava held the cold, heavy key in her trembling hand, something stirred deep inside her, a quiet pull she couldn't explain. For the first time in years, she had a destination. And maybe a truth waiting to be uncovered. Ava Mitchell had always trusted one thing above all else: survival. And survival meant not chasing illusions, not believing in things that sounded too strange, too convenient, too good to be real. But the map in her hands didn't feel like an illusion. It felt like a challenge. The journey took her nearly an entire day. A long bus ride out of the city slowly gave way to empty highways, then to narrow back roads that twisted through dense forests and jagged mountain ridges. By the time she stepped off at the last stop, a forgotten gas station at the edge of nowhere, the sky had already begun to dim into a cold gray evening. The air was sharper here, cleaner. It carried the scent of pine and damp earth, and something else. Something that tugged at her memory. She adjusted the strap of her bag and started walking. 5 miles, the clerk had told her. 5 miles down a road that barely qualified as a road. At first, it was easy. Gravel crunched beneath her boots, and the occasional wind rustled through towering trees like whispers she couldn't quite understand. But as she walked deeper, the road narrowed, then broke apart into dirt, then into nothing more than a faint trail swallowed by overgrowth. By the time she reached the end, night had fallen, and rain had started. Ava stood there, soaked, staring at what was supposed to be her inheritance. Nothing. No house, no cabin, no sign that anyone had ever lived there. Just wild land, untamed, overgrown, and completely indifferent to her presence. A bitter laugh escaped her lips. Of course, she muttered under her breath, figures. This was exactly what she should have expected. Another empty promise, another dead end. For a moment, she seriously considered turning back, going to the nearest town, finding a cheap motel, and forgetting this entire ridiculous trip ever happened. That was the smart choice. That was the safe choice. But then, her eyes drifted back to the map. The door is on the north face of the ridge. The words echoed in her mind. Her gaze slowly lifted toward the dark silhouette of a rocky ridge rising behind the property. A door. Her jaw tightened. Fine, she whispered, one last look. The climb wasn't easy. The rain made the ground slick, and more than once she nearly slipped on loose rocks and hidden roots. Her hands grew numb from the cold. her breath uneven as she pushed forward through the darkness. Every step felt like a fight between instinct and curiosity. Turn back. Keep going. Turn back. Keep going. By the time she reached the base of the ridge, her clothes were soaked through, and her patience was gone. "This is stupid," she snapped. "Kicking a loose stone, there's nothing here." The stone tumbled down, knocking into the wet earth. And something shifted. A faint, unnatural sound. A dull scrape. Ava froze. Slowly. Cautiously. She crouched down, brushing away mud and tangled roots with her bare hands. The rain didn't matter anymore. The cold didn't matter. Because beneath the dirt, there was something solid, flat, man-made. Her pulse began to race. No way. She dug faster now, ignoring the sting in her fingers as dirt packed beneath her nails. Inch by inch, the shape revealed itself a large, rectangular slab of concrete embedded directly into the hillside. And at its center, a steel door. Old, rusted, silent. Waiting. Ava's breath caught in her throat. This wasn't just real. This was deliberate. Her father hadn't left her nothing. He had left her this. Her hands trembled as she reached into her pocket, pulling out the iron key. It felt heavier now, colder, like it had been waiting for this exact moment. For her. Rainwater dripped down her face as she stared at the keyhole, dark, narrow, almost hidden beneath years of rust. "This is insane," she whispered. But she didn't stop. She stepped forward. The key slid into the lock with resistance. Metal grinding against metal as if the door itself was resisting her. For a brief second, she hesitated. This was the moment. Once she turned it, there was no going back to ignorance. No more simple answers. No more pretending the past didn't matter. Her grip tightened, and she turned the key. At first, nothing happened. Then, a deep, echoing clang erupted from within the door, vibrating through the ground beneath her feet. Ava flinched, her heart slamming against her ribs. The mechanism groaned, ancient and stubborn, before finally giving way with a heavy, earth-shaking release. The forest fell silent. Even the rain seemed to pause. A faint, stale breath of air seeped out from the edges of the door, cold, trapped, untouched for years. Ava stepped back, staring at it. This wasn't just a hidden place. It was a secret, a buried truth. And somehow, it had been waiting for her to find it. Slowly, she reached forward, gripping the edge of the steel door. It resisted at first, heavy beyond expectation. But with effort, real, desperate effort, she managed to pull it open just enough to reveal darkness below. Endless, silent. Her flashlight flickered to life, cutting a narrow beam into the void. Concrete steps, leading down. Her father's past. Her truth. Her choice. Ava stood there, rain pouring around her, staring into the unknown. Every instinct told her to run, but something deeper, stronger held her in place. For the first time in her life, she wasn't running away. She was stepping forward, and with one steady breath, Ava Mitchell crossed the threshold, and everything changed. The moment Ava stepped inside, the outside world vanished. The heavy steel door slammed shut behind her with a deafening boom, sealing her in complete darkness for a split second before her flashlight steadied. The sound echoed through the underground space like a final warning. There was no turning back now. The air was cold, stale. It carried the weight of years, maybe decades. Ava swallowed hard, forcing herself to breathe as she slowly descended the concrete steps. Each step creaked faintly under her weight, the only sound in a silence so thick it pressed against her ears. At the bottom, the narrow stairwell opened into a wide underground chamber. Her flashlight swept across the room and she froze. It wasn't just a bunker. It was prepared. Shelves lined the walls, stacked with sealed containers, water canisters, emergency supplies. A simple cot rested in the corner beside a wooden table. Everything was organized, intentional, like someone had been planning for something, or hiding from something. "Dad," she whispered, the word unfamiliar on her tongue. Her chest tightened. This wasn't the man she thought she knew. This wasn't abandonment. This was something else entirely. Her light shifted and landed on a metal box tucked beneath the cot. It was the only personal object in the entire room. Ava moved toward it slowly, her pulse quickening. Something about it felt different, important. Her fingers hesitated over the latches. Then she opened it. A faint scent drifted out cedarwood, old fabric, and something deeply familiar. Her breath caught. Inside were neatly folded clothes, worn, simple. A flannel shirt, work pants. She reached out, touching the fabric gently. Memories hit her like a wave. A younger version of herself, laughter, strong hands lifting her into the air, the smell of wood and sawdust. Her father, not the shadow she remembered, but the man he used to be. Her vision blurred slightly as she dug deeper into the box. Beneath the clothes, a photograph. She picked it up, wiping away a thin layer of dust. A little girl sat on a man's shoulders, both of them smiling under bright sunlight. Her breath trembled. I remember this. The feeling came back first before the memory fully formed. Safety, warmth, belonging. Something she hadn't felt in years. But it was what lay beneath the photo that changed everything. A bundle of letters, all tied together carefully with a thin piece of twine. Her name was written on each one. Ava Mitchell. Her hands began to shake. "No," she whispered. There were so many. Years' worth. He had written to her. All this time. One envelope rested on top, separate from the rest. A single word written across it. First, the room felt smaller as she sat down on the edge of the cot, her fingers trembling as she opened it. The sound of tearing paper echoed unnaturally loud in the silent bunker. She unfolded the letter and began to read. "My dearest Ava, if you are reading this, then it means I am gone, and you are finally safe." Her heart skipped. Safe. I know you must hate me. I know you must believe I abandoned you. And God, I deserve that anger. I deserve every ounce of it. Ava's throat tightened. But I need you to know the truth. Not for forgiveness, but so you understand why I made the worst decision of my life. Her hands gripped the paper tighter. I didn't leave you because I didn't love you. I left you because I loved you too much. A tear slipped down her cheek. The words blurred, but she kept reading. Before you were born, I made mistakes. Dangerous ones. I got involved with a man named Victor Hale. At first, it was business. Land deals, investments, things that looked legal on paper. But Victor, he wasn't just a businessman. He was ruthless. Ava's breathing slowed. Her entire body locked in place. He used threats, violence, fear. Anyone who stood in his way disappeared financially or permanently. Her stomach dropped. When I realized the truth, I tried to get out. I gathered evidence documents, records enough to destroy him. That was my mistake. The bunker felt colder. He found out. And then, he found you. Ava stopped breathing. Her fingers tightened around the letter. He started watching us, following you, watching you play, watching you sleep through your bedroom window. No, she whispered, shaking her head, but deep down, something inside her recognized the fear. He wanted leverage, and you were the only thing in this world that mattered to me. Her chest ached. I knew I couldn't protect you if you stayed with me. As long as you were my daughter, you were a target. Tears streamed down her face now. So I made the only choice I had. I had to make you disappear. Ava let out a broken breath. The pain she had carried for years. The feeling of being unwanted. It cracked. I put you into the system because it was the only place he would never think to look. You became just another name in a broken system. Invisible. Untraceable. Her vision blurred completely now. The day I left you was the day I broke myself beyond repair. Her hand pressed against her mouth, trying to contain the sob rising in her chest. You looked at me like I was a stranger, like I didn't love you, and I had to let you believe it. Her body shook, because if you knew the truth, you would never be safe. Silence filled the bunker, heavy, suffocating. Ava lowered the letters slowly, her entire world unraveling. She wasn't abandoned. She was protected. Every lonely night, every moment she felt unwanted. It had all been a lie, a shield, a sacrifice. Her father hadn't left her. He had given up everything so she could live. A sob tore through her chest, raw and uncontrollable. Years of pain, of anger, of emptiness. It all came crashing down at once. I thought, "You didn't want me," she whispered into the silence. Her voice echoed back at her, but there was no answer, only the truth. And the truth hurt more than anything she had ever known. But beneath the pain, there was something else, something unfamiliar, something warm. Love. Real, fierce, unimaginable love. Ava wiped her tears with shaking hands and picked the letter back up. There was more. More truth. More secrets. And deep down, she knew this was only the beginning. Ava sat there in the silence, the letter trembling in her hands. But something inside her had shifted quietly, profoundly, irreversibly. For years, she had carried a story, a simple one, a painful one. He left me. That belief had shaped everything, how she saw the world, how she trusted people, how she protected herself. It was the foundation she had built her identity on, cold, guarded, untouchable. But now, that foundation was cracking. "No," she whispered, shaking her head as if she could resist it. "No, that's not true." But it was. Every word in that letter felt too real to deny, too raw, too heavy with truth. Her father hadn't abandoned her. He had sacrificed her. And somehow, that hurt even more. Ava pressed the heel of her hand against her chest, trying to steady the storm building inside her. Her breathing became uneven as memories began to resurface, not as fragments this time, but as something clearer, sharper, more honest. The fear in his eyes that day, she had always remembered it as indifference, coldness. But now she saw it differently. It wasn't distance. It was terror. He had been afraid, not of her, but for her. Ava let out a shaky breath, her entire body going still as that realization sank deeper. All those years, every birthday she spent alone, every night she lay awake wondering why she wasn't enough, every moment she told herself she didn't need anyone. It had all been built on a lie she never questioned. Her lips trembled. "I hated you," she whispered into the empty bunker. The words echoed back, hollow and broken. "I thought you just gave up on me." Tears welled again, but this time they felt different. Less sharp, less angry, more aching. Because now she understood something she hadn't allowed herself to feel before. He didn't give up. He let go. And those two things were not the same. Ava looked around the bunker again, but this time she didn't see a cold, empty shelter. She saw effort, care, planning. Every can of food, every folded blanket, every carefully placed object. It wasn't just survival gear. It was preparation. For her father hadn't just hidden from danger. He had been preparing a future where she might come back, a future where she would finally understand. Her throat tightened. He really thought I'd find this, she murmured softly. Not hoped, believed. That belief hit her harder than anything else, because it meant he never stopped thinking about her. Not for a single day. Ava reached for the bundle of letters beside her, her fingers brushing against the worn paper. There were so many of them, each one a piece of time he had spent writing to someone he couldn't see, couldn't protect, couldn't hold. Her chest ached at the thought. "How did you live like that?" she whispered. The answer came without words. The bunker, the letters, the sacrifice. He didn't live. He endured. For her. Ava closed her eyes tightly, a tear slipping down her cheek. For the first time in years, she didn't feel alone. The loneliness that had followed her like a shadow. It shifted. Not gone, but changed. It wasn't emptiness anymore. It was connection. A quiet, invisible thread stretching through time, linking her to someone who had never truly left. Her father had been there. Not physically, but in every choice she made to survive. In every instinct that kept her going. In every moment she refused to give up. He had shaped her, without ever being beside her. Ava let out a long breath, her shoulders slowly relaxing as something inside her softened. The anger that had once burned so fiercely. It didn't disappear completely, but it transformed into something deeper, something heavier, understanding. And with it, forgiveness. Not because what happened didn't hurt, but because now, she knew why it had to happen. "I get it now," she whispered, her voice fragile but steady. The words felt strange, unfamiliar, but true. Ava looked back at the letter in her hands, her gaze lingering on the handwriting tight, controlled, but filled with something that now felt unmistakable. Love, not the easy kind, not the kind that comforts and stays, but the kind that breaks, sacrifices, disappears, so the other person can live. Her chest tightened again, but this time she didn't fight it. She let herself feel it. All of it. The pain, the loss, the love, because for the first time, it all made sense. Ava slowly stood up, her legs slightly unsteady but her mind clearer than it had ever been. She wasn't the same person who walked into this bunker. That version of her, the one built on anger and abandonment, was gone. In her place stood someone new. Someone who carried truth instead of assumptions. Someone who understood that the past wasn't always what it seemed. She took a deep breath, looking around the bunker one more time. This place wasn't just a secret anymore. It was a message, a final act of love, and now, it was up to her what to do with it. Ava tightened her grip on the letters, her expression slowly hardening. Not with anger this time, but with something far more powerful. Purpose, because understanding the past was only the beginning. The bunker was no longer just a place of truth. It had become a crossroads. Ava stood in the center of the room, the letter still in her hand. Her heart no longer racing, but steady, focused, awake in a way it had never been before. She thought she had already uncovered the biggest secret. She was wrong, because her father hadn't just left her answers. He had left her a choice. Ava wiped the remaining tears from her face and took a slow breath. Her eyes drifted back to the metal box beneath the cot, the one she hadn't fully explored yet. Something about it called to her. Not emotionally this time, but instinctively. She crouched down again, pulling it closer, the faint scrape of metal echoing in the silent bunker. Her fingers hesitated for only a second before lifting the lid completely. What she saw inside made her heart stop. Stacks of cash, neatly bundled, organized, hidden. Her breath caught. What? She reached in slowly, almost afraid it would disappear if she moved too fast. The bills were real, crisp despite their age. Dozens of bundles, maybe hundreds. More money than she had ever seen in her life. Her mind spun. This wasn't survival money. This was escape money. A way out. A way to disappear. A way to finally live without fear, without struggle, without the constant weight of surviving day by day. Ava sat back slightly, staring at it, her thoughts racing. This changes everything. For a moment, just a moment, she allowed herself to imagine it. A small apartment somewhere far away, a quiet life, no past, no danger, no pain, just peace. Her chest tightened. It was tempting. More than tempting, it was everything she had ever needed. But then, her eyes shifted. Beneath the stacks of cash, there was something else. A thick, worn ledger bound in dark leather, and beside it another sealed envelope. Ava's stomach dropped. Slowly, she reached for the envelope first. The wax seal cracked under her thumb as she opened it, her pulse beginning to rise again, not from fear, but from anticipation. She unfolded the letter. Ava, if you are reading this, then you didn't run. Her breath stilled. Part of me hoped you would take the money and leave. Start fresh. Live the life I could never give you. Her eyes flickered toward the cash again, but another part of me knew you wouldn't. A faint, sad smile touched her lips. You knew me better than I knew myself, she whispered. The money is yours, no matter what you choose. It's there to protect you, to give you the freedom I never had. Her grip tightened slightly on the paper, but the ledger. Her eyes dropped slowly to the book beside her. That is something else entirely. A chill ran down her spine. That ledger contains everything, every deal, every threat, every crime Victor Hale ever committed. Ava's breath hitched. Names, dates, transactions, evidence. Her heart began to pound again. I was his accountant once. I saw it all, and I recorded it all. The bunker suddenly felt smaller. He hadn't just been running from a dangerous man. He had been holding the weapon that could destroy him. The book is the truth, and the truth is dangerous. Ava swallowed hard. If you choose to walk away, take the money, burn the ledger, forget this ever existed. Her eyes closed briefly. That was the easy path, the safe path, the path her entire life had trained her to take. Survive, avoid danger, disappear. But the letter wasn't finished. But if you choose to stay, if you choose to fight, her heart pounded harder. Take the ledger to Thomas Whitaker. He's the only man I ever trusted. He'll know what to do. The lawyer. Of course. Everything was connected. Ava, this isn't your burden. It was never supposed to be. Her jaw tightened. You don't owe me anything. A tear slipped down her cheek. Live your life. That's all I ever wanted. The final line hit her the hardest. But if you decide to finish what I couldn't, she held her breath. Then don't do it for me. Silence. Her heart echoed in her chest. Do it for yourself. The letter slipped slightly in her hands as Ava stared at the words, her mind spinning faster than ever before. This was it. The moment everything came down to a single decision. She looked at the cash again. Freedom. Safety. A clean slate. Everything she had never had. Then she looked at the ledger. Truth. Danger. Justice. Everything her father had sacrificed himself for. Her chest rose and fell slowly as the weight of the choice settled over her. 2 paths. 2 futures. 2 versions of herself. The girl who survived, or the woman who stood and fought. Ava stood up slowly, the letter still clutched in her hand. Her legs felt steady now, not weak, not uncertain. Clear. Focused. She had spent her entire life reacting, adapting, running. But this was the first real choice she had ever been given. Not forced, not dictated. Chosen. She walked a few steps across the bunker, her mind replaying everything, the loneliness, the anger, the truth she had just uncovered. Her father's sacrifice, his fear, his love. Her fists clenched. Victor Hale had taken everything from them. Her childhood, her family, her father's life. And now, he was still out there, untouched. The thought burned. Not like anger before wild and uncontrolled, but something colder, sharper. Purpose. Ava turned back toward the table, her gaze locking onto the ledger. This doesn't end with you winning, she said quietly. Her voice didn't shake. It didn't break. It was steady, resolved. She walked back, reached down, and picked up the ledger. The weight of it settled in her hands. Heavy, real, final. At that moment, she wasn't just holding a book. She was holding the truth, and with it, the power to change everything. Ava exhaled slowly, her decision made. She wouldn't run. Not anymore. Because for the first time in her life, she wasn't just surviving. She was choosing who she wanted to be, and she chose to fight. The moment Ava climbed out of the bunker, the world felt different. Not because anything had changed, but because she had. The rain had stopped. The forest stood still around her, quiet and indifferent, as if nothing beneath the ground had just rewritten her entire life. But inside her, everything was sharper, clearer. She wasn't the same girl who had arrived here chasing answers. She was someone else now, someone with purpose. Ava tightened her grip on the duffel bag slung over her shoulder. Inside it, the ledger, the money, the truth. And without wasting another second, she started walking. The return to town felt shorter, faster. Not because the distance had changed, but because hesitation was gone. By the time Ava reached the small gas station at the edge of the road, the sky had begun to lighten. Early morning. A new day. Fitting. She stepped inside, her clothes still damp, her expression calm but unreadable. The older man behind the counter glanced up briefly, but this time, she didn't ask questions. She already had her answers. What she needed now was action. The bus ride back felt completely different from the one before. Before, she had been drifting. Now, she was moving with intention. Every mile brought her closer not just to the city, but to confrontation, to truth, to something that scared her far more than the bunker ever had. People. Powerful people. Dangerous people. Ava stared out the window. her reflection faint against the glass. "You don't get to run anymore," she murmured to herself. The words weren't a reminder. They were a decision. By the time she arrived in the city, night had already fallen again. Lights stretched endlessly across the skyline, familiar yet distant. This place used to feel overwhelming. Now, it just felt like the next step. Ava didn't go anywhere else. Didn't stop. It didn't hesitate. She went straight to the one place that mattered. Thomas Whitaker's office. The building loomed tall, quiet, and almost empty at that hour. But when Ava stepped inside, she didn't feel out of place anymore. Not like before. This time, she belonged here. She walked up to the reception desk, her voice steady. "I need to see Mr. Whitaker." The assistant hesitated. "It's late. Do you have an appointment?" Ava didn't blink. "Tell him it's about my father." That was all it took. Moments later, the door opened. Thomas Whitaker stood there, his expression serious, eyes sharp the moment they landed on her. He already knew. Or at least, he suspected. "Come in," he said quietly. The office felt the same as before, polished, controlled, professional. But Ava didn't feel small anymore. She stepped forward, set her duffel bag on the desk, and opened it. Slowly and deliberately. First the cash. Whitaker's brows furrowed slightly. Then, the ledger. The moment his eyes landed on it, everything changed. His expression froze. Not confusion. Recognition. Deep, immediate. He stepped closer, almost cautiously, like he was approaching something dangerous. "Where did you get this?" he asked, his voice lower now. Ava met his gaze without hesitation. "My father left it for me." Silence filled the room. Heavy. Then Whitaker exhaled slowly, running a hand across his face. "I told him to destroy it," he muttered under his breath. Ava's eyes sharpened. "You knew?" It wasn't a question. Whitaker looked at her again, really looked this time, not as a client, but as someone connected to a past he had tried to bury. "Yes," he said finally. "I knew." Ava's jaw tightened slightly. "Then you know what's in it." Whitaker nodded once. "And you know what it means if we use it." His voice carried weight now. Real weight. "This isn't just evidence. Ava, this is a weapon." She didn't flinch. "I know." He studied her for a long moment, searching for doubt, fear, hesitation. He found none. "You could walk away," he said quietly. "With that money, you could disappear. No one would ever find you. No one would blame you." Ava's expression didn't change. "I'm not walking away." The words landed like stone. "Final?" Whitaker's eyes narrowed slightly, not in resistance, but in realization. "You've already decided." Ava nodded. "He took everything from us," she said, her voice steady but firm. "I'm not letting him take this too." A long silence followed. Then slowly, Whitaker straightened. Something shifted in him too. "Then we do this properly," he said. The next hours moved fast. Faster than Ava expected. There was no turning back now, only forward. Whitaker locked the office doors, shut the blinds, and began going through the ledger page by page. Names, transactions, threats. Every detail was there, meticulous, undeniable, devastating. "This is bigger than I thought," he murmured. Ava stood nearby, arms crossed, watching. "How bad?" Whitaker looked up at her, his expression grim. Not just Victor Hale. A pause. Judges, officials, law enforcement. Ava's stomach tightened. The system was compromised, just like her father feared. Whitaker closed the ledger slowly. "We can't go through normal channels," he said. "If this gets into the wrong hands, it disappears. And so do we." Ava didn't hesitate. "Then we find the right hands." Whitaker studied her again, and this time, there was something new in his expression. Respect. "You're not who you were when you walked in here the first time," he said. Ava shook her head slightly. No, she wasn't. Not anymore. Just as they began outlining their next move, a sharp sound cut through the silence. Whitaker's phone. He glanced at the screen, and his expression changed instantly. Tension. Urgency. He answered. "Yes." A pause. Then, "What do you mean accelerated claim?" Ava's body stiffened. Whitaker turned away slightly, listening. His face hardened with every passing second. When he hung up, the room felt colder. "They've made their move," he said. Ava stepped forward. "Who?" Whitaker met her eyes. "Victor Hale." Her heart pounded once, hard. "He's filed an emergency claim on your land. Forged documents. Massive debt. He's trying to take it before we can act." Ava's jaw clenched. Of course he was. He had been waiting, watching, just like before. "How long?" she asked. Whitaker didn't hesitate. 48 hours. Silence. Heavy. But Ava didn't panic. Didn't step back. Didn't run. Instead, she stepped forward, her voice calm, focused, dangerously certain. "Good." Whitaker blinked slightly. "Good." Ava's eyes hardened. That means he's scared. A beat of silence. Then, a faint, almost imperceptible smile formed. Not soft, not warm, but sharp, resolved. "He made the first move," she said quietly. Her grip tightened at her side. "Now we end it." The courtroom was quieter than Ava expected. No dramatic tension, no shouting, no chaos. Just silence. The kind of silence that settles before something irreversible happens. Ava sat in the back row, her hands resting calmly in her lap, her posture straight. To anyone watching, she looked composed, almost detached. But inside, everything was razor sharp. Every sound, every movement, every breath. At the front of the room stood Victor Hale. For the first time, Ava saw him in person. He looked nothing like the monster she had imagined growing up in fragments of fear and broken memories. He was polished, controlled, confident. A man who belonged in rooms like this. A man who believed he had already won. His expensive suit fit perfectly. His expression carried a faint, relaxed smile as his legal team prepared documents with quiet efficiency. To him, this was just another deal. Another piece of land. Another victory. He didn't even glance toward the back of the room. He didn't know she was there. And that was exactly how Ava wanted it. Case number 417, the judge called. Victor's lawyer stood immediately, presenting the forged documents with confidence. A narrative built on lies but delivered flawlessly. Debt, default, legal claim. Clean, simple, convincing. For a moment, it almost worked. The room leaned toward acceptance, toward inevitability, toward the quiet theft of everything her father had protected. But then, Thomas Whitaker stood, slowly, deliberately. "Your Honor," he said, his voice calm but firm. "Before this proceeding continues, we request the court review newly submitted evidence regarding the plaintiff's business practices." A subtle shift, nothing dramatic, just enough to change the air. The judge frowned slightly but nodded. Proceed. Whitaker stepped forward and placed a thick file onto the bench. The ledger had been copied, documented, organized, transformed from a hidden truth into undeniable proof. As the judge began reading, the silence deepened. And then, something changed. Ava saw it first, not in the judge, but in Victor. His smile faded, just slightly. His posture stiffened. His eyes flicked toward Whitaker. Confusion, then suspicion, then fear. It was subtle, almost invisible, but Ava saw it, and in that moment, she knew. He recognized it. The truth had found him. Minutes passed like hours. The judge's expression darkened with every page. The courtroom, once calm, now felt heavy, uncertain, uncomfortable. Then, the doors at the back opened. Two men stepped inside. Quiet, professional, unremarkable. But their presence shifted everything. State investigators. They moved calmly down the aisle, stopping beside Victor Hale. One of them leaned in, whispered something, and just like that, the illusion shattered. Victor's face drained of color. The confidence, the control, the certainty. Gone. Replaced by something raw. Exposed. For the first time, he looked exactly like what he was. A man caught. There was no dramatic outburst. No desperate plea. Just a quiet collapse. The investigators placed a hand on his shoulder and led him away. Just like that, the man who had controlled everything was gone. Case dismissed, the judge said firmly. The gavel struck once, sharp, final, and it was over. Ava didn't move right away. She sat there, staring at the empty space where Victor had stood just moments before. It felt unreal, too fast, too quiet, but it was real. Her chest rose slowly as something settled inside her. Not relief, not joy, as something deeper, closure. Outside the courthouse, the world moved on like nothing had happened. Cars passed, people talked, life continued. But for Ava, everything had changed. Whitaker stepped beside her, his expression calm but satisfied. "It's done," he said. Ava nodded slowly. "Yeah." Her voice was soft, but steady. The weeks that followed unfolded like a story finally reaching its truth. Victor Hale's empire didn't collapse all at once. It unraveled. Piece by piece, the ledger exposed everything. Corruption, fraud, intimidation. Names surfaced. Allies turned. Secrets broke open. What once felt untouchable became fragile. And then it fell. But Ava didn't stay to watch it burn. She had something else to do. She went back. Back to the land. Back to the place where everything had begun. The forest welcomed her differently this time. Not as a stranger, but as someone returning. The air still carried the scent of pine and earth, but now it felt familiar, grounded. Ava stood at the edge of the property, looking out over the wild, overgrown land. Once she had seen nothing here. Now she saw everything. Possibility, memory, home. She didn't rush, didn't try to rebuild everything at once. Instead, she started small, clearing brush, cutting back overgrowth, letting sunlight touch the ground again. Every swing of the tool in her hand felt meaningful, intentional, connected. She wasn't just working the land. She was reclaiming it, reclaiming him. The bunker remained, but it no longer felt like a place of fear or secrets. It became something else, a quiet sanctuary, a reminder, a foundation. Ava cleaned it, opened it, let fresh air flow through spaces that had been sealed for years. She left the cot, the table, the small details her father had placed there, not as relics, but as presents. He wasn't gone. Not really. Not anymore. Some nights, she sat down there in the stillness, reading the letters he had written over the years, each one filled with thoughts of her, memories, hope, love. He had never stopped being her father. He had just loved her from a distance. One afternoon, as the sun dipped low over the trees, Ava stood at the highest point of the ridge, the same place where she had once almost turned back. She looked out across the land, her land now, and for the first time, she smiled, not out of relief, not out of victory, but out of understanding. Her story had never been about abandonment. It had always been about sacrifice, about a love so fierce, it chose pain over risk, distance over danger, loss over losing her. Ava took a deep breath, the cool air filling her lungs. She wasn't the girl who had arrived here lost and angry, and she wasn't defined by what had happened to her anymore. She had something stronger now, truth, purpose, and a future she was finally choosing for herself. She turned, walking back down toward the land she was beginning to rebuild, step by step, piece by piece, not running from the past, but building on it, because this place, this story, this life, was hers now, and for the first time ever, she felt like she was exactly where she was meant to be. Ava's story shows that love isn't always easy to understand. What looks like abandonment can actually be sacrifice. What feels like distance can come from protection. For years, Ava believed she was unwanted until she discovered the truth her father let her go to keep her safe. The past isn't always what it seems. When we face the truth, we don't just heal, we gain strength from it. Your past doesn't have to hold you back. It can become the foundation that helps you move forward. Before judging someone or holding on to pain, ask yourself, do I know the full story? Understanding doesn't erase hurt, but it can transform it. And no matter what you've been through, you always have a choice. Run from the past, or build something stronger from it. If this story resonated with you, share your thoughts below. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more powerful stories.